Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, scholars, and students from leading institutions, business leaders, practitioners, dear Dean Dr. Muin Zafar, Graduate Research Coordinator Mr. Muhammad Riemann, and our conference chair, dear Dr. Shahzad. Welcome. Welcome to the 2022 AUSOM International Research Conference. First of all, we thank our university and the School of Management for organizing such an important event for scholars from various respected institutions and practitioners to communicate their research, experiences, lessons, and wisdoms about business, economy, and management, especially after the whole world has experienced an unprecedented calamity caused by the pandemic of COVID-19. This is a timely event. It is held in the beautiful spring season in the beautiful city of Islamabad, which makes this event more meaningful. I have been to Pakistan. It's a beautiful country. I believe the fruits coming from our 2-day research conference will benefit us all and beyond, including scholars, practitioners, decision makers, old fellows, and young students for years to come. Now let me share my slides. My name is Howard Chi. I'm a professor of finance at the Franke College of Business at Northern Arizona University, located in Flagstaff, Arizona. It is my great honor to meet you all here. The subtitle of my talk is Impact of the Pandemic and its Implications, Challenges and Opportunities. I will carry out the discussion mostly, but not all, from the U.S. perspective, and perhaps also share some of my own experiences. Please note, there are visible impacts. There are also invisible impacts yet to be seen. And most importantly, there are consequences that will play out in the long run. It is hard to make accurate predictions. This is why there are so many challenges for scholars to study, but also opportunities for business to explore. Those who respond, I believe, those who respond and adapt well will survive and thrive. First, let's take a look at the demographic shift, which has been considerably accelerated by the pandemic. It is not surprising that traditional industrial areas in the U.S. have been in demographic decline. These areas, you can see, they're experiencing a drop in population, and the purple states are experiencing an increase in the population. But what is interesting is the traditional financial centers like New York City, Chicago area. New York City is here, Chicago area, and the high-tech centers like Silicon Valley in California, Boston area in Massachusetts. They're also experiencing a demographic decline. Now, where do people move and why? Well, number one reason, I believe, is weather. And number two is pandemic. People are leaving the crowded urban areas and choosing to live in sparsely populated small towns because they're safer and closer to the nature. Number three, also due to the pandemic, the mode of work has switched to remote some of the mode of work for some jobs has switched to remote and offsite. Previously, we did not realize that many types of jobs could have been done effectively, efficiently, and done well remotely. This is especially true about many types of white-collar jobs, such as education, accounting, financial, marketing, management consulting, investment, you name it. For example, my neighbor is a Boeing manager. Boeing's aircraft maker. He's a manager there. He moved his whole family from California to my city here. Now, I talked to him. He said, well, basically, I can move anywhere and work anywhere. Okay. So what are the consequences of this demographic shift? Again, I'm going to discuss this from the U.S. perspective. You can see the red states, they are mostly Republican, represented by Donald Trump. They will sooner or later turn blue. The blue states are Democratic, okay, represented by President Biden. Now, this would have long-term consequences in terms of global trade, corporate income taxes, health industry, insurance industry, labor market, etc. This is because the blue and red have very different policies in these areas, as we have seen during the pandemic and as of now. How do they evolve remains to be seen. But it's fair to say that the business world and our life are to be more uncertain than certain. Again, those who can be more flexible and adaptive will have a better chance in this risky or uncertain world. Now, let's look at education, the education industry. Because of this demographic shift, there are many consequences. According to a recent Washington Post report, a drop in college enrollment threatens to cause long-term economic social consequences. And a sharp and persistent decline in number of Americans going to college, down by nearly 1 million since the start of the pandemic. So this is a crisis, and people believe it's a crisis that has not been fully recognized yet. This poses a serious challenge to the higher education sector. For example, many small colleges and even some big ones in the Northeast, Midwest in the US, or even in California are facing the threat of closing down. Some actually already did. I just have interviewed a senior professor from a city in California. He's a department chair. Now he's looking for a job because his college is about to close down because of declining enrollment. On the other hand, it's very interesting. On the other hand, due to the demographic shift, only four states are seeing enrollment increases, including my state of Arizona. Now, if you compare it to the previous graph, you can see these states are actually receiving people from other states. Now, what are the other consequences due to this demographic shift? Well, real estate market. Let me use my vivid personal experience to show you the big impact that the pandemic has inflicted on the housing market in place where I live. Okay. As you can see, the housing supply drastically changed since June 2020, during the height of the pandemic. It has been a seller's market ever since, and it's getting worse for the buyers. Notice the background price increase. It has been moderate, but dramatically accelerated since the pandemic started. Okay. This is because many white-collar workers, they're relocating to my area because they want to be away from crowded urban areas, and they can afford to work remotely. This has both challenges and opportunities, especially for the local economy and local people. The housing price is so high right now that many local people find it very hard to buy a house or rent a house or apartment. We started to see more homeless people. It's a sad thing. It's a sad thing to see homeless people on the street now. But on the other hand, we also see construction industry and related business are booming. People in the business who have made the move earlier are very happy. They're doing very well in terms of construction, Airbnb, rental properties, personal investment, etc. But on the other hand, this also worsens the rich and the poor gap faster and faster, something that will have further social, economic challenges down the road. Are business and the community management prepared for them or not? We still don't know. These are things that I see every day with my own eyes in this fast-changing world, in this medium-sized city. The consequences due to the demographic shift across the board, such as childcare, infrastructure, services, restaurants, etc. But I'll just stop here. Now let's move to the next one. Education, the education industry. Now let's look at the education industry. According to a recent article on World Economic Forum, okay, schools shut all across the world. Globally, over 1.2 billion children in 186 countries are out of the classroom during the pandemic. Notice this number does not include college students and does not account for countries being locked down at different times. As a result, education has changed dramatically with the distinctive rise of e-learning, whereby teaching is undertaken remotely and on digital platforms. Research suggests that online learning has been shown to increase retention of information and to take less time, more efficient, meaning the changes coronavirus have caused might be here to stay for the long run. According to my personal experiences, universities are trying hard to get the students back to campuses because of various reasons, good or bad. Okay, for example, empty dorms and parking lots mean less cash flows. Many jobs on campus and off campus exist because of students' presence. Indeed, some students still prefer traditional in-person classrooms, but more and more have started to prefer online learning experiences because of its convenience and flexibility. This not only has a direct impact on the university, but also has a huge impact on the local economy. Many U.S. towns are so-called college towns, and their economy depends on the college in town. For example, Marlborough College in Vermont. Unfortunately, This college, 100-year-old college, closed during more than 100 years old. It closed during the height of the pandemic. And afterwards, the local economy shattered. Well, we have challenges from the pandemic. There are also opportunities because of it. Business and individuals who can adapt quickly will become prosperous. For example, there's a huge surge in the EdTech, education technology, since COVID-19. Okay, now we can read these numbers, and especially there's a substantial jump during and after the pandemic. Okay, and they expect it to increase to. You can see there's a whopping increase expected by 2025. Okay, and these technologies include language learning apps, virtual tutoring, virtual conference tools, etc. Okay, there are also online courses for adults and the children. For example, my children are learning various subjects online, including musical instruments, math, languages, and the teachers can be all over the world. I noticed there's a surge in such advertisement on YouTube, especially during the pandemic. Now, I have to talk a little bit of the lessons that I have learned. Okay, I'm a consultant of a higher education company that coordinates summer courses for high school and college students, mostly college students. I told the company you should get ready for online teaching a couple years ago, and told them it is a trend. But they believed expanding the number of participating campuses was a way to go, completely ignoring the changing trend in the higher ed industry. The business was great at that time, but when the pandemic hit, they still believed it was temporary. When they finally started to react, they were ill prepared, and they lost the business probably permanently to their competitors. This was a great company, but right now it is struggling to survive. However, I also like to caution, okay, there's always a flip side, just like anything else. There's always a flip side, okay, to the online learning mode. According to a recent report by NBC of New York, 1/3 of the U.S. elementary school students, their reading ability dropped significantly after the pandemic started. And the linguist Professor Dr. Tamara Seller attributed this to the poverty of these families. Okay, children from poor families are hit hard simply because they cannot get out of classroom tutoring. This reminds us of the old wisdom. Nothing's perfect. Online is a complementary mode, not the total solution. Now, this certainly creates opportunities for business and educators. Now, different from online education, but also different from old traditional way as well. Okay, we have new opportunities open up. Now, we'll let the educators and entrepreneurs to explore these opportunities in the education industry. There's also a very interesting, very new and interesting research conducted by a CDC on the health industry, okay, health-related sector. Okay, so COVID-19 lockdown has impact on lifestyle and body weight. They studied the changes in diets and sedentary behaviors after lockdown based on increased Google search intensity for these kind of terms: food delivery, high calorie foods, video stream platforms has increased a lot. Okay, now it's very interesting. Now people can use this kind of high tech, not quite high tech, but new technology to conduct this type of research. For example, like they use Apple Map to track down people's mobility in terms of direction request. Okay, you go to the map, you want to find information how to get that place easier. Okay, that's called direction request. And the driving, walking, public transportation, all this information, big data can get from Apple Map. What they find is very surprising and interesting. Okay. For example, they find right after the lockdown, people's weight on average did not increase, but after 3 or 4 months or 5 months, it started to show a noticeable increase in body weight. Now, why does this matter? Because obesity or overweight oftentimes is related to many different kind of diseases, and they have socioeconomic consequences in terms of health, insurance, nursing home, these kind of things. And also they have other socioeconomic consequences like security of the society, jobless rate, things like that. Okay. Now, what is interesting is that what they find is the pandemic hit especially hard, asymmetrically, on different groups of people. For example, non-white and white shows a big difference. The red lines basically indicate where the pandemic lockdown started, and you can see the body weight for non-white and for white. It shows a big contrast. And also, people who have received higher education or without higher education also shows a difference. People who live in metropolitan areas are doing worse compared to people who live in non-metropolitan areas. Now, why are these factors making a difference? Okay, which I guess because education is oftentimes associated with different types of job, lifestyles, and also knowledge about health. Lifestyle matters, we can see here. Okay, and this is probably why people are leaving the more crowded urban areas and choose to live in smaller towns. It's safer, closer to the nature, and their working style can afford them to do that. Pandemic accelerated this differentiation. But these findings, okay, under the surface, also suggest long-term challenges to the whole society and business. Now, what are the long-term challenges? Well, these are something that I can think of. Okay, now health industry, job market, public services, and especially social sustainability and wealth equality, etc. Okay, community security and the crimes. So this new CDC research on the lifestyle and body weight can have many consequences in these areas and probably more. Okay. Now here, why are these important? Okay, why are these important? These are challenges that we have to face down the road. Now, I just want to end this note with two quotes by the Prussian statesman, Mr. Bismarck, and especially the second one. Whoever has a pension for his old age is far more content and far easier to handle than one who has no such prospect. It has a lot to do with the stability of the society. So that's why everybody should care about this. The pandemic also has some consequences on other sectors. I'll just pick a few and present some data. Okay, basically these data just to try to show you there's a big jump in e-commerce, and in e-commerce, especially in the retail industry. Okay, now you can see there's a 14% change in 2021, and if you count the 2 years before and after the pandemic started, it's according to Forbes, it's roughly 50% jump in e-commerce. Okay, and even in terms of this online retail sales, the growth rates are different for different sectors. Okay, so here once again just some numbers. All these numbers are very surprising. Okay, now for business we want to know what sectors are affected more, what are the potential growths. Okay, you can see the whole industry average growth is a whopping 39% during this pandemic. Okay, and the fastest growth categories of e-commerce is furniture, building materials. Okay, people want to build more houses and live more remotely. Okay, and electronics. You want to take remote learning. Okay, and also food and food industry. Okay, so apparel was one of the few categories of e-commerce to grow slower than the industry average. You know why? I'm guessing that because people who stay home, they don't have to worry too much about what they wear. Okay, so these are the impacts on the retail industry due to the pandemic. You can see the impacts are different. Okay, impacts are different. Now, it would be nice for business to see this and react accordingly. Okay. Now, okay. All right. We have seen the tremendous rise in e-commerce, and it is expected to grow in a sustainable fashion. Certainly, those who seize this opportunity have made lots of profit and are expected to enjoy the growth of e-commerce. However, I would also like to point out that nothing's perfect. Okay, the traditional brick-and-mortar retail business model has come back and come back strong, as shown by this graph. You can see in this graph the comparison of these two. Now, this suggests, you can see this is a big change, but now the blue one comes back. Okay. Now, this suggests many people still prefer local experiences. Now, in some aspect, some types of e-commerce cannot be replaced completely by online shopping. Okay. This opens up good business opportunities, but perhaps need different types of management, providing more, for example, providing more flexibilities, such as delivery services, combining more online components, etc. Okay, as people are getting more and more used to some conveniences from their changed habits. Now, let's discuss other impacts. According to a recent McKinsey report, 25% of employees who have voluntarily left and then returned are likely to leave in the next 3 to 6 months. They know that other opportunities are out there. They have been there. They have done that now. Okay, so now what they value more are workplace flexibility. That has been ranked number one. 40% choose this as a most important factor in their job decisions. And the second one is professional development. Salary ranks number 2 below this workplace flexibility. Okay, support for mental health and other needs. Now, if those needs are not being met at one company, they will look for the right conditions elsewhere. Now, I believe the pandemic experience opened up their job market perspective, which they previously never knew about or never knew much about. Okay, this poses challenges to business employers. What are the challenges? How should we respond? Well, you can see companies. Okay, companies now will need to restructure compensation packages in ways that will attract and retain employees. Business leaders cannot just write one big check after another and expect that that would keep employees in the fold. But that's what many business employers still trying to do. Okay, they're wrong. For example, in one finance services company, during the pandemic, the leaders increased salary ranges by 15% in order to try to keep employees from leaving. But attrition levels stayed the same. It didn't work. That's because the company had not addressed concerns in the middle of a global pandemic. They have not responded the request for flexibility in the job place, nor had it acknowledged the changes going on within their industry. They're blind to the changes to the industry. So that's why this company is a bad counterexample that shows the business is not responding well and adapting quickly to the change in our society and in business world. So far, I have addressed a few important issues among many that are caused by COVID-19. As the world is hopefully emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic, we have major challenges awaiting countries across the world. Other challenges too. I believe more global cooperation is necessary to address the common challenges such as the current and the future pandemics, risk in the financially integrated world, global climate change, so our children will have a better future, worsening inequality because of the digitalization or AI replacing human labor. Now this is a big challenge to come, and global peace and prosperity, etc. All these challenges come with opportunities for young scholars, practitioners, and business leaders to explore the new areas of knowledge, test the new waters, and implement new business ideas and knowledge. and rise to the call of our times by making contributions to the societies we live in. Now, let me conclude this speech by sharing another quote by Mr. Bismarck. Indeed, COVID-19 undoubtedly has caused so much loss and pain. Perhaps we can have something positive coming out of this mass and global tragedy. Some changes are permanent, okay, and interesting here. For example, a recent Japanese survey shows that more than 13% of the people they're missing their new lifestyle during the pandemic lockdown. Okay, well, I don't know how you think about this or how you have done so far. I sincerely hope that everyone in this audience are taking good care of yourself and stay safe. Wherever there's a crisis, also lies an opportunity. We hope we hope the lessons we have learned from COVID-19 will help us better navigate in the future risky world. Okay. Finally, I thank our university, and specifically Dean Muin Zafar, Dr. Shahzad, and every participant for making this very meaningful event possible. I wish a big success for this international conference. Thank you, everyone.